child of breath and bone. You return. The whisper slips through the veil like smoke from old incense, curling about your ears, not said, but remembered. You should not be here, yet you are, like he was, before the bell rang. A dry finger taps wood, somewhere in the cloister of your mind. If you still clutch your candle, let it burn through this vigil. Press your ear to the silence and mark the hour you hear this. Comment it as a ward, as a warning to others. The time may bind you back to yourself, if all else fails. A brittle wheeze, nearly a laugh, leaks through rotted teeth. Now, lean closer. Let me show you the page that unmade him. It was during the long vespers when the cold made the stones sweat that you first see him. A boy no older than 8 winters, thin as parchment, his hair pale like the candle wax at lauds. His fingers pressed against the chapel wall where the saints' names are worn smooth by centuries of unkissed prayer. He is not part of the choir. He is not listed in the monastery census. He is simply there, crouched by the ossuary door where they keep the bones of failed martyrs and miscopied psalms. You glance again, and he's gone, or nearly gone. A flicker of white shifts behind the heavy wood. And you, ever curious, slip from the pews like a shadow in contrition. Behind the door lies a spiral stair, and at its base, a corridor carved into limestone like the ribs of something buried alive. The smell is wrong. Not death. Older. Less forgiven. A cold that shivers backward through time. The torchlight bends wrong along the angles. The child's footprints are left behind in bone dust, but only on the left foot. You follow. Deeper. Until you find the shelf. Not a grand library, not even a reliquary, just a slit in the stone, big enough for one forgotten book. The book is small, bound in something that once had hair. Its surface pulses ever so slightly when you do not look directly. There are no words on the cover, just a circle, carved with too much care. A circle that looks like it remembers the shape of your throat. The child reaches for it before you can call out. He does not hesitate. He does not ask permission. His fingers trace the spine like greeting a familiar sin. And then, he vanishes. Not disappears, no. Vanishes like steam into snow, like something that was never fully there to begin with. Your breath is your only sound now. You pick up the book. It is warm, and it opens for you. Thus begins the first stanza of Undoing. The child who vanished after reading. Now, let us turn the first page. The first page is not paper. It flakes, like skin cured badly, like the outer husk of a tooth boiled in lye. Your fingers hesitate, but the page bends for no one. It tears for the willing. And when you touch it, it sighs. Not with voice, but with release. The ink, if it is ink, spreads wet beneath your hand, though the room holds no moisture. It smells of old milk and cloves, of something fermented with grief. Each line crawls, letter by letter, as if resisting stillness, as if their form is still being decided. The text is in a dialect you almost understand, Latin perhaps, but inverted like a prayer said in a mirror. You recognize the glyph for devotio, but it melts into defluxio, a falling away. The symbols shimmer between states, the holy and the heretical, the sacred and the obscene. The boy, now forgotten by all save your memory, had begun with this page. A psalm of reversal. A devotion written in powdered teeth and ash taken from funeral candles. You read the first line aloud, not from desire but from compulsion. It tastes bitter, like almonds or poison. The page responds, Domine, regredianter in ventrem matris. The words make the torches flicker and spit. A line of ants dies mid-crawl across the threshold. You do not notice your shadow has vanished. There is a belief banned at the Synod of Corby in 762 that scripture, if miscopied intentionally, creates living sentences, organisms of thought that feed upon the reader. One monk, Dr. Alcuin of Torcella, claimed his fellow scribes began vanishing into their own margins. He tried to burn the scrolls. The fire went out in silence. No smoke. Just ink that bled across the tiles for days after. His tongue blackened. They buried him beneath the altar. Upside down. You remember this as the second page begins to whisper. Not in language. In breath. The lines inhale. You smell honey and blood. Not fresh. Remembered. A scent that belongs in a crib, not a crypt. You cannot look away. Your fingertips age in reverse. Wrinkles smoothing, nails lightening. The book pulls memory from you. It asks for your first word, your first fall, your first lie. It does not accept silence. A fragment within the page describes a lost belief from the 8th circle of Asturian mystics, that the soul is not located in the heart or mind, but inside the 3rd tooth from the left, in a child's lower jaw. When that tooth is removed prematurely, the soul becomes nomadic, hungry for shape, for scripture, for someone else's flesh. The monks who followed this belief removed their teeth in ritual silence, wrapping them in psalms and burying them in catacombs to prevent their souls from being stolen by the books that remember. You feel your own mouth tremble as you turn the page. There is dust now, rising from the text like incense. It glows faintly. You think you see your own name, written backwards, at the margin. Not in ink, in bite marks. The dust does not settle. It drifts sideways as though the air itself has begun to slant. You turn the page again, slowly, as if expecting it to scream. But instead, it breathes. Not metaphorically, not in metaphor. It expands when you draw near and contracts as you lean away. The parchment rises slightly with each exhale, and now, you hear it. A breath that isn't yours. Too slow to be human, too old to be wind. A low rhythm. Ha ha. Ha. A wheeze with memory. You do not recall how long you've been listening. There are letters now that appear only when the breath comes. Hidden ink, visible only by rhythm. As if the words themselves live only when exhaled, you follow the pattern. One line, then another. The language again shifts. Something close to Aramaic, but fractured with Coptic vowels and Gothic thorns. It speaks not of faith, but of absence. A theology not built on belief, but abandonment. One phrase repeats. Et lux abscondita in ore infanti, and the hidden light in the mouth of the child. The ink ripples with every syllable, as if ashamed. You mouth the phrase without meaning to. The book sighs in relief. There is a passage that recounts the breath-binding rite of the vanished sect known only as the Pale Chorus, an early 4th century monastic order whose members believed that words spoken aloud drained the breath of the world. They spoke only through books, and only books that had been soaked in the saliva of the dying. Their scrolls were rumored to hum when left in the dark. Emperor Diocletian ordered their libraries sealed in salt. Yet this page still hums. You try to pull your fingers away from the vellum, but your skin clings to it, not with glue, with need. The book is cold now and your pulse is slower. You notice your breath does not mist anymore in the cold, but the page does. And somewhere within the folds of ink and flesh you hear it. A voice. Small. Male. Almost singing. No words. Just the lull of a child left alone too long. You lean closer. The page flexes upward to meet you, and the voice continues, from beneath the parchment. A 10th century heretic from the Caucasus region, Anatol Narek, once penned a treatise claiming that the breath of a child who reads scripture before baptism enters the page and waits there, growing hungry. He called these spirits ventriculi verbi, bellies of the word, and warned that the books they haunt would eventually return to claim the rest of the body. The Inquisition dismissed his writings as fevered nonsense. His corpse was exhumed 3 times over the next century, each time found with pages in his mouth none of them accounted for. You run your hand across the lines. The text quivers. For a moment, the letters form a small, perfect mouth. It opens, and the voice says your name, not aloud, inside your lungs. You stagger back, but there is no sound when your body hits the floor, because the page is breathing for you now. The cold stone doesn't welcome your fall, it claims it. For a breathless moment, the floor beneath you feels softer than it should, like wet paper stretched over a pit. The echo of your impact folds inward, devoured by the silence that follows. You lie still, listening, but not to the world, to it. The book does not speak, not exactly. It waits, like something that knows it will be fed again soon. You push yourself upright. Your fingers still bear the dust of breathless pages. That's when you see the bruise. On your thumb, faint and crescent-shaped, as if a print has been pressed into your skin by hands unseen. You scrape at it, but it does not fade. The color deepens, darkens to indigo. Beneath it, the veins shift, and suddenly you remember the child had this too, didn't he? A faint smudge on his hand where the candlelight didn't touch. A mark given, not earned. You search the margins of the next page. There too, pressed into the corner, a thumbprint, not inked, impressed into the very skin of the parchment. It mirrors yours, perfectly, only older, wiser. And then you see it, scratched into the binding seam in a language that tries to remain unnamed. Ego sum ultimus scriptor. I am the last scribe. It was in the Vatican's hidden Registrum Damnatio 1312 that a forbidden entry was made without ink. The ledger, sealed by the command of Pope Clement V, listed names of scribes deemed too dangerous to excommunicate, those whose transcriptions bled into reality. One name, Callistus of No Mouth, was scrawled only once, and then physically removed from the manuscript with a sharpened thumbnail. The page still bleeds slightly, if held to candlelight on a Thursday. You did not know his name before, but you do now, the page told you. It whispered it into your thumb. Callistus, he who never spoke aloud but wrote until the parchment begged for death. His thumbprint was banned from every monastic press west of Constantinople. Yet here it is, on your hand. And the book sighs, again pleased. You look down. The bruise has spread, not in color, but in complexity. The shape of letters has begun to spiral from the print, crawling along your veins like script upon a scroll. It is not Latin now. It is something older, possibly pre-Phoenician, possibly not meant for tongues at all. The pain is subtle, like the ache of forgotten guilt, but it tightens when you try to stop reading. The next page contains a warning, scrawled, in trembling Syriac. If you reach the spine, you become it. The ink is flaked, but alive. The margin bears another thumbprint. This one is smeared. The text below trembles, as if someone had tried to tear the page out and failed, and in failing, became the page itself. You hear something now, not behind, the parchment, beneath your skin, a pulse that is not your own, and it is tapping. 1, 2, 3 times, like the sound of a scribe dotting each I in reverse. An obscure belief held by the Schwenkfeldian exiles of the 16th century posited that books written without breath, texts, formed in complete silence, contained the last remnants of the divine word before it fractured at Babel. These texts, they claimed, were not to be read aloud, but inhaled, through the eyes, through the hands, through the skin. But each reading cost the reader a part of their time, or their blood. Your hands begin to shake. The bruised thumb throbs in time with the turning of the page. You try to close the book. It will not close. Your fingers are no longer your own. The next page is darker not by ink but by intention. Its surface bears no script at first glance, only gentle indentations, as if words were whispered hard enough to leave bruises in the vellum. You lean close, and the page exhales warmth, as though it has waited just for you. Shapes begin to emerge, but not drawn. They rise slowly, as if recalled from a deep theological sleep. Letters unfamiliar yet eerily instinctive curl into form. You don't read them. They occur to you as if your mind had always held them, buried deep beneath prayers you thought were yours. And then the words speak. Not aloud, not in thought. They rewrite something inside you. A phrase echoes, benedict, non facius. Bless, do not make. But that is not what you hear. Not truly. What you hear is the inverse. Undo what has been made. The Psalms of Unmaking they were once called by monks who later vanished into ink. Forbidden by the Fourth Lateran Council, these verses were said to unravel the divine scaffolding of the world, syllable by syllable. A single line recited with conviction could make fruit rot on the tree. Another could unbaptize a child. It was whispered that the entire Psalter, if chanted under a lunar eclipse, could remove the name of God from stone and from memory. You test a single stanza, just one. The whisper barely leaves your tongue. Yet the flame in the torch nearest you dies in silence. The air thickens, clotting around your face. A vine curling along the chapel's outer wall suddenly shrivels, its tendrils turning inward like a fist closing in prayer. The silence grows. The child had read this page. You know it. You feel it. His breath lingers in the margin. Your hand rests atop his invisible touch. Where he pressed, the vellum is slightly indented, warmed by something not yet gone. The scent of lavender and ash clings to it, a mother's touch remembered by a corpse. Your skin tightens. You begin to see the world differently. You blink, and for a moment the stone wall reveals a second layer, bones stacked behind it, whispering in a language only ink could speak. The air carries a sweet rot, the kind that lingers after spiritual decay. You taste it behind your teeth. There is a footnote, scratched into the page with a stylus rather than penned. It speaks of a ritual lost to the Negev hermits, the turning of the fifth psalm, a practice in which monks would bind pages of scripture around the tongue and speak only in reverse to undo the world's lies. They believed creation was a wound, not a miracle. That reading backward was the only true prayer. Many of them died with their mouths sewn shut by spiders. Their tongues were said to continue whispering long after their breath had ceased. Your voice tries to hum one of the forbidden lines. You hear it echo, faintly, but not from your throat, from the spine of the book. The page trembles in delight, and a single insect, a beetle, black and ancient, crawls from between the fold and lays down upon your hand. It dies without struggle, turns to salt. You brush it off without thought. Your fingers leave no mark. You feel lighter now. Not freer. Hollowed. Like something has been taken in exchange for that single verse. You are not sure if you still believe in God, but you now know, without question, that something far older is listening. The ink on the next page is wet, still. You see the droplets glisten before they fall, upward, not down. They gather in the folds of the air like dew upon spider silk, then vanish into nothing. The text rearranges itself when you blink, like worms shifting in soft loam. Letters bloom, and rot in a single breath, and each line, each prayer, draws something out of you. You read the opening verse. Your joints loosen. You read the second. Your voice cracks into that of a younger boy. The book is not written in normal ink. You know this now. The color is too deep, too alive. A red so dark it looks black until it is too late to look away. In the margins, dried scabs flake into forgotten letters. Every word cost you a year. You touch your cheek. It is rounder, softer. The beard you wore when you entered the scriptorium is gone. Your teeth ache as if they are growing again. There was once a monastery in Trento, forgotten by most, known for a single document preserved in wax, Scriptum Tenebris. The text was rumored to have been inscribed with the blood of orphans taken before speech, their silence bound into scripture. This living ink fed upon the reader's years, not in haste, but by fractions. One syllable, one season. Monks who read too deeply were found in their cells as children, confused, sobbing. unable to speak the name of God, or their own. The boy who vanished. He had read this chapter, hadn't he? Of course he had. His footsteps faded down that corridor, not with speed, but with lightness. You remember now, the print of his right foot smaller than his left. By the last step, it was the print of a toddler. The lines before you are lullabies, if sung backward. You try not to mouth the words, but your tongue has its own memory now. It moves without consent. You murmur one stanza, just to understand. Your knees give out. You look at your hands. They are the hands of a boy. No hair, no scars. The fingers of a time before guilt. The book, sensing your regression, seems to hunger more. It drips now. A drop falls to the floor. You hear it sizzle. The scent of milk, warmth, a mother's breath. Then gone. The edge of the page is lined with hair. Soft, childlike hair. It curls upward as you move, reaching for your fingers. A forbidden belief among the Hesychast anchorites of Cappadocia once claimed that to age was to forget the original truth. Hence, the holiest state was infancy. They would bind themselves, in swaddling cloth, feed only on milk and root water, and meditate until their minds returned to the purity before language. They spoke of a book that could return the body to that sacred ignorance. The book was said to feed on time like a hound feeds on entrails, grateful, joyous, inevitable. The next line beckons. You resist, but not for long. With each word, you feel lighter, smaller, softer. Your feet barely touch the ground now, and the book, it seems to smile. You flee, or try to. But your legs, now childlike and unsteady, betray your intent. Each step is uncertain, each breath thinner than before. The corridors do not obey your memory. They bend, contract, expand like lungs. The monastery has changed, or perhaps you have. The book remains open behind you, watching, waiting. You find a door where no door should be, an unmarked slab tucked behind a broken statue of Saint Apollonia, her mouth chipped away, her teeth replaced with tiny brass nails. You remember this alcove. It once held an empty confessional, but the booth is gone, and in its place a seam, a thin crack in the stone, barely wide enough for a child's shoulder. You slip through, and the wall does not protest. The chamber beyond is wrong. Too large for the monastery's design. It stretches inward like a forgotten womb. The air is stale with silence, thick as wool soaked in candle wax. Dust clings to the light. There is no altar, no crucifix, only shelves, hundreds of them. All empty, save one. At the center of the room sits a lectern, rotted and bowed, bearing a single object wrapped in translucent linen. Beneath the fabric, something pulses gently. The linen flutters, though the air is still. You step forward. Your feet leave no sound. You are no longer certain your bones are yours. There was once a rule kept only by the Black Order scribes of Muthel Abbey. Never open a door not drawn on the monastery's map. Their abbots taught that certain rooms existed outside the will of God, built not by masons but by intention itself. Rooms that appeared when certain books were read deeply enough. Rooms with no exit but silence. When such a door was found, it was to be sealed with tallow and scripture. Some monks, however, sought those rooms on purpose, hoping to glimpse the blueprint beneath creation. You remove the linen. Beneath it, another book, not the same as before. Smaller, bound in velvet black, skin that sighs beneath your touch. The sigil on the cover is an eye, not drawn but grown. When you blink, it blinks too. The child has been here. You smell him. Chalk, lavender, candle smoke. A single white hair rests on the lectern, so fine it might be spider's silk. It shivers when you breathe. You reach for the book. It is warm, like breath, like blood. You open it. Inside, no words, only shapes, diagrams, mouths drawn within mouths, a staircase spiraling inward through the iris of a weeping eye. a bell with no clapper, and beneath it, scratched into the margin with something blunt. You must be small enough to leave. You do not understand. Not yet. You turn the page. The light in the room dims. Or perhaps your eyes are adjusting to the truth. The book begins to hum. Not a note, but a frequency, low and bodily like the memory of the first cry. You take a breath, but it is not yours. It is older, and it fills you. A fragment from a banned liturgy uncovered in the catacombs beneath Bologna speaks of the room that remembers no sound, a place said to exist in the spaces between sacred syllables. Those who enter forget language, forget form. One monk who returned could only write backward for the rest of his life. His heartbeat skipped. Every third beat, and when he died, no mouth could close his eyes. You try to speak, but your voice has forgotten how to shape your name, and the room listens. The silence inside the room is not absence, it is choice. It rejects sound, the way skin rejects infection. Your breath no longer echoes. Your footsteps leave no weight. Even your thoughts feel thinner, as if they could be seen by whatever presence this room remembers. And at its center, nestled in a cradle of bone and glass, lies a relic you once believed fictional, the 9th finger of St. Drogo. A reliquary like no other, held in silver tongues twisted into a lattice of teeth. The finger itself is pale, impossibly intact, curled into a gesture not of blessing but of secrecy. Shh. Its nail is blackened with ink that has never dried. Its bone pulses faintly with warmth. You step closer. The book pulses too. It vibrates against your ribs now, though your hands no longer carry it. The page has moved inside you, the words stitched to your veins. The ink tastes like old names. You kneel as tradition demands, not out of piety but dread. You know the tale of St. Drogo. Every novice learns it in whispers, patron of deformed saints and vanished scribes. His martyrdom was never catalogued, only inferred from dreams shared by 8 abbots across 4 centuries. Each one saw the same thing, a child reading from a book that consumed his voice, his body, and finally, his soul. All that remained was his 9th finger, gifted to no hand, still pointing downward in judgment. The church officially denies the relic exists, but it does, here. And it does not like the book you've touched. When you move your hand near the reliquary, the finger writhes, not twitching, writhing, like something remembering how to move. The nail oozes a single black tear. The silver lattice sizzles, as if trying to close in defense. The relic is not sacred now, it is afraid. There was once a rite practiced in the sewers beneath Avignon, among heretical penitent monks known as the scripti penumbra. They believed certain relics could be reversed, unhallowed, by reading the right book in their presence. They called it sanctum revertitur, the holy reversal. They claimed a relic, once unmade, could remember its true origin, not from the saint, but from the sin that birthed it. Every object holy was once touched by something monstrous. That was the cost of sanctity. You place your hand on the glass. It cracks. The finger turns toward you. The reliquary shudders and weeps smoke. The room trembles. The book inside you opens again, whispering a line you've never seen before. Et digitus nonum meminit, and the 9th finger remembers. You understand now. The relic is not merely a witness. It is a key. It has waited for the reader to return. Not a reader, you. And in your blood the book has left the lock. The glass splits. The finger falls, lands in your palm. It burns, not with heat, with recognition. And suddenly you see the child. Not the boy who vanished, but you. Younger still, before speech, before light, before your name. Holding the same book, your eyes hollow, your hand missing a finger. You scream, but there is no sound, only the book's approval. You flee again, this time stumbling not from fear, but from the fragile architecture of your own form. Your limbs no longer know their proportions. The bones ache with unfamiliar geometry. Behind you, the reliquary has collapsed into ash. the ninth finger curling in on itself like a question never meant to be answered. You stagger into the nave, or what remains of it. It is night now, though no time has passed. The candles are all unlit, yet their shadows dance as if in prayer. And at the heart of the darkness sits the baptismal font, overflowing, spilling gently onto the stone in rivulets of impossible silence. The water should reflect the vaulted ceiling, but it doesn't. It reflects downward into depths no font could hold. You draw near. Your own reflection does not meet you. Instead, the surface reveals the child, the one who read before you. He stands barefoot on the bottom of the font, lips parted, eyes wide, blinking water from lashes too pale for sunlight. He is mouthing something, a name, not yours, not his. A third name, forbidden, syllables twisted like ropes of smoke. The water vibrates with it. Your ears ring. You reach for the surface. It grabs you, not with hands, with recognition. Your fingers sink into the water, not with splash, but with silence, as though the font remembers who you were supposed to be. The child smiles. His mouth opens. Water spills upward into your throat. You choke. You fall. The belief that baptism opens the soul to light is not universal. Among the old Caspian monks, there was a counter-ritual. Anti-baptism, performed only once every 100 years under a lunar eclipse that fell on a saint's feast. In it, the initiate was submerged not into water, but into a mirror polished from obsidian and sheep's milk. There, they would be offered the chance to be unmade, to remember what they were before the soul was attached. Most never returned. Those who did had no name, only a number. 0. The font begins to speak, not in voice, in bubbles. Each one rises with a syllable, an echo of something written but never spoken. The floor grows slick with meaning. Your knees touch water that does not wet. It stains instead, deep red, then silver, then something the eye cannot name. The smell is of iron and honey, and then you hear it. The font whispers a word not in your tongue, but in your bones. It vibrates down, your spine, the same name the child mouthed. It hammers against your ribs, searching for exit. You vomit water, but it does not fall. It hangs midair, swirling, forming letters. A script from no alphabet. The baptism has reversed. You are not cleansed. You are remembered. In the shadows beyond the nave, the old statues weep, their eyes hollow, their mouths opening. Some cry, wax, others blood. One statue cries ink. The book has opened them too. You crawl back from the font. It still ripples. The child no longer stands within it. Only his outline remains, like smoke pressed into glass. And you know now, he did not vanish. He was received. The monastery bells do not ring. And yet, you hear them. Distant. Warped. As though tolling backward. As if memory itself were being unwound. You stagger to your feet, dripping echoes rather than water. Every step feels like a repetition. A loop. You pass the same pillar 3 times, and each time the crack in its stone deepens. You are being pulled into a liturgy not of words, but of eras. In the center aisle, the air thickens, suspended like dust in wine. Your feet sink ever so slightly into the flagstones, as though the ground were soft with prayer. Before you, hanging, where the crucifix once was, is a parchment scroll wider than the altar, suspended by no chains, bearing no visible text, until you blink. Then, lines, hundreds, and moving. They do not shift randomly. They rearrange. As though aware of your gaze, they gather into columns of hymns, each verse written in the tense of a time that has not yet passed. The opening line, "Let it not be now. Let it not yet be." You do not speak it, you merely witness, and the sun stops. The stained glass halts in mid-glow, trapping the same crimson reflection on your wrist for far too long. Dust no longer moves. Shadows freeze mid-lurch. The flame of a candle stands still as sculpture. Time bends because you read. There was a monastic sect in the Carpathians known as the Anachrony Dei, who believed time was a liturgy composed by angels, and that certain hymns, if sung from reversed breath, could pause divine momentum. They guarded one chant, Canticum Intervalli, the hymn of the interval. It was said to halt sundown. For 3 days the monks prayed in a frozen world, only to return with aged hair and mouths stitched shut. None could recall what they saw, only that their shadows no longer matched their steps. You glance toward the window. The sun is bleeding, not setting, bleeding. Long, horizontal streams of red light spill across the stones like wounded time. Outside, birds hang in air, unmoving. Even the wind seems held in suspension. The entire monastery breathes once, then holds it. And still, the scroll unfurls. Its script deepens, now engraved not in ink but in weathered gold, the kind that flakes from antique icons. It pulses in rhythm with your thoughts. You think of the child, and one of the verses reshapes itself into a silhouette. His silhouette. Not drawn, carved in time. You reach for it. Your fingers brush the text. The parchment breathes in reverse. The verse reads you, and a new verse appears. Your name. You recoil. But your name does not vanish. It remains on the page, burning with silent memory. The scroll has recognized you as a participant, not a reader. Time begins to melt. Sounds blur, elongate, repeat out of order. A crow caws outside, then uncaws. You blink, and the candle rewinds into wax. Another blink, and your hand writes a symbol onto your chest, though you do not recall, moving. You are not alone in your mind now. The book has turned you into a chapter. A theological mystery long hidden in the apocryphal fragments of the Lamentations of Ephraim describes liturgical recursion, the belief that sacred readings, if composed with the right sequence of vowels and silences, could trap a soul in its own timeline. The writer becomes the written, the reader, the event. Such a soul, Ephraim warned, would cease to remember which moment was first, or whether time itself had ever begun. You speak a name you do not recognize. The parchment absorbs it. The scroll vanishes into smoke. And suddenly, it is night again, but a different night, and you are no longer the age you were. You are not entirely certain you are someone anymore. The new night is too quiet. It listens. You stand, or try to. Your legs obey, but awkwardly, like borrowed limbs. The candlelight is gone, replaced by silver. Moonlight spills through the broken arch of the apse, yet no moon can be seen. Only the light remains as if the source had been devoured. And where the light falls, the dust rises. It does not dance. It climbs. Each mote writhes upward against gravity, forming letters mid-air, runes that disintegrate if you blink. One of them, you recognize. A symbol from the margins of the book. The one the child traced before he was unmade. The one you now feel carved into your breast. You reach to touch the dust. It pulls away, and then returns, attaches to your fingertips, begins to bleed. The bleeding is not yours. Tiny rivulets of red trace from the pads of your fingers to your knuckles. But the sensation is elsewhere. Not pain, memory. 1,000 hands turning 1,000 pages, bleeding the same pattern over centuries. This dust remembers readers. An entry buried within the black index of the Mainz Heresiarchs refers to pulvis lamentis, the dust of lamentations. Said to be harvested from pages written in martyr's ink and burned at the moment of confession, it was stored in sealed urns and used to detect falsified scripture. If exposed to moonlight, the dust would reassemble into the face of the last truthful reader. The church banned its use after 13 scribes disappeared mid-Inquisition, leaving only outlines where their bodies had once sat. You look up. On the far wall, drawn in blood and dust, is the outline of a child. Perfect, empty, as if the body burned out from within and only the memory remained. Around it, words scrawled in a circular prayer: Donec liber consumetur, puer manebit. Until the book is consumed, the child shall remain. But the book does not burn. You tried. You remember now. The first time you found it, years ago. Perhaps in a dream. Perhaps in another life. You tried to set flame to it and the fire wept. The candle bent away from the cover. The ash refused to settle. The book was not a thing of this world. It was older than fire. The dust clings to your arms now, tracing veins, forming new letters. A name appears, not yours, not the child's. A third name again, the one whispered from the font. It forms and reforms, each letter shedding blood. You try to wipe it away, but it reappears. Insistent, breathing. Somewhere outside the monastery, wolves howl, but the sound arrives after their mouths close. Echoes without origin. Time is bent. You are not where the moon shines. You are where the moon remembers having shone. You turn to leave. But the moonlight follows. It drips through the stone like a liquid illuminating more dust. And where it gathers, something begins to rise. A page. Not from the book. From you. A thin, translucent sheet peels from your forearm, unwrinkling like vellum. It bears the writing of your dream, the one you had before you came here, before you were called. The dust reads it and bleeds more. You are becoming part of the manuscript, and the moon has begun to weep. The wind changes, or rather, it remembers how to move. You hear it stirring through the upper cloisters, rustling nothing, dragging forgotten air over long dead stone. It sounds like whispers, but not of words, of sighs. You follow them, not by choice, but by recognition. Each step now feels like one you've taken before, though you cannot say when or as whom. At the end of the corridor, just past the collapsed library, stands a door that should have rotted centuries ago. Its hinges are freshly oiled. Behind it, a cell, and within that cell, a shape. A figure hunched in prayer, veiled, unmoving. A nun. You know this cannot be. The sisters were moved to another abbey 3 winters past, when the rain broke through the roof and drowned the apse. Yet, here she sits, her hands folded, her lips murmuring words that do not echo. You call out. She does not respond. You step inside. She looks up, and her eyes, weeping, milky, endless, see through you. She does not ask who you are. She asks, "Do you still carry the book?" You nod. She nods too, slowly, as if in mourning. Then I can finally forget. She reaches beneath her habit and produces a thin scrap of parchment. Upon it, a face, drawn in the style of medieval iconography. Lips pale, eyes too large. A boy, the child. Beneath the image, the date of death, June 11th, 1882. The ink still wet. You feel it. And the name, yours. You try to speak. She interrupts. You were buried in this abbey, child. I remember. I held your hand as you faded. I begged the priest not to let you read it, but you found it anyway. And when you passed, the book vanished from your chest. You stare at the parchment. The likeness is perfect. It is the boy. It is you. Only aged backward into bone. The nun closes her eyes. Her lips tremble. They said you vanished. But I know. I remember the smell. I remember the cold. I remember your little hand clutching mine as the ink crawled across your neck. You whispered something before your breath stopped. She leans forward. Her voice falls to a tremor. You said, "It's not finished yet." A legend whispered among the silent orders of the gray hills told of a revenant scribe, a child who read himself into a book that refused endings. A soul so intertwined with script that it bled back into form every century or so, wearing a different face but repeating the same fate. They believed he returned to monasteries abandoned by time, drawn by the scent of vellum and rain. He was not a ghost nor a demon, but a sentence. Still being written, you drop the parchment. It does not fall. It turns in air slowly, then floats to the nun's lap. She sighs. Your skin was colder than the reliquary, but your eyes were still reading, even after you died. You try to ask who she is. She does not answer. Instead, she crumbles, gently, like a habit filled with dust. Her veil collapses inward. Her bones do not clatter. Her breath does not fade. She simply ceases. The only thing that remains, the parchment. And now, it has changed. The boy is still there, but beside him, another face. Yours now. This moment. The ink is still wet, and the book in your chest begins to whisper. 12 pages are written. 3 remain. The monastery's walls begin to hum. A low resonance, barely audible, like the sound a bell makes only in dreams. You follow it instinctively, deeper into the cloisters, past the refectory long collapsed, beyond the refectory where your reflection once meant something. You're no longer certain of your name or of your age, or of your first reading, and then you find it. A basin, large and silver, resting on a pedestal of dark wood that breathes like skin stretched across a choir of bones. This is no font, no holy vessel. This is a mirror, and it drinks the light. Around it like blood into linen. The surface does not shimmer, it waits. You approach. There is no reflection. At first, then it shudders, once, like an eye half waking. Ripples spread across its surface, not from your movement, from something within. A figure begins to take shape. Not you, not now, but familiar. Horribly so, a monk. Ancient, silent. He is seated at a desk, face pallid, eyes sunk into shadows, deeper than sleep. His hands rest upon a book. The book. His mouth opens, wide, too wide. His tongue is ink. His eyes meet yours. He begins to scream, but there is no sound, only movement. His lips move too fast, forming symbols instead of syllables. You try to look away. You can't. The reflection holds you in place. The monk thrashes. Blood pours from his ears in reverse, and then he becomes you. Your hands appear in the mirror, younger, ink-stained. The book rests between them, alive with light and rot. Behind you, in the reflection, the child returns. He walks to your shoulder and rests, his head there, his mouth opens. He speaks your name backwards, and your name obeys. You stagger. The basin trembles. The image begins to loop. The monk reading, the scream, the blood, the transformation, again and again. Faster each time, until the frames blur, until there is no difference between reader and reflection. There exists a forbidden rite referenced only once in the Byzantine fragment Speculum Prima Scriptura, the mirror of the first reader. According to the fragment, the first man to read the divine word read not from paper but from water. His reflection took his voice, his form, his right to die. Since then, every reader has lived in fear of the moment when reflection overtakes, reality when the book reads you in return. The monks of Hagios Taphos warned never to read near still water, not for vanity, for survival. The mirror begins to bubble. The monk's face splits, revealing 1,000 smaller mouths inside. Each mouth whispers a different line from the book. You recognize one. It's yours. One you thought, never said. One you buried in silence. A line about your father. Your first prayer. Your first lie. The child behind you places his hand on your shoulder. You feel the weight. You feel your hand. Your reflection turns to look at you and winks. The basin shatters. The shards do not fall. They orbit you, floating, spinning, each fragment, containing a version of your face, young, old, dead, unborn. In the silence, the book speaks. The reader is nearly complete. You look down. Another page has unfurled across your ribs. The air becomes too still, not calm, paralyzed, as if the breath of the monastery has halted, as though the great lungs of stone and shadow refuse one final inhale. You move forward, slower now, not because of pain, but anticipation. The book within you pulses like a second heart. It is no longer a separate object. It is you. And it is writing still. There is a door ahead, small, almost absurdly so, child-sized, set into the base of the oldest pillar in the transept, where no architecture ever marked an entryway before. But you know this is the door the boy stepped through. You kneel. Your hands tremble as they touch the wood, which is soft, pliable, warm, like the underside of skin. The door does not creak. It opens like lips parted in breathless prayer. You crawl inside, and the darkness accepts you like an overdue thought. Within, a chamber of impossible geometry. Walls curve in upon themselves. The ceiling breathes. No floor, only parchment. Endless sheets, stitched together with ink and vein. They stretch in all directions, and on every page, fragments of stories, some familiar, some yours, some unfinished. You approach the center where a single pedestal rises from a pool of stilled ink. Upon it, one page, not old, not worn, new, still damp. It unrolls itself slowly as you draw near. You read the first lines, and they are you, not your name, but your thoughts, your fears, your sins, written exactly as they were conceived, shaped by memory, not alphabet. The paper expands as you read, like lungs filling with meaning. Line by line, your life is rewritten beneath your eyes. Then you see it, a paragraph you've never lived, a moment that hasn't happened yet. The page grows, a passage forms describing what you are doing now, this very breath, this very sentence. You step back. The page extends. It follows. You run. The parchment unrolls beneath your feet, creating the floor. It is writing your escape before you attempt it. It is faster than you, smarter than you. You stop. There is no escape from a page that does not end. You fall to your knees. And for the first time, the book speaks in full voice, not in breath or ink, but with your voice. Finish the page. There was once a tale preserved in the dead-tongue codices of northern Thrace, of a cursed scroll called the Autograph of God, a page said to write its reader into eternity, offering no punctuation, no pause, no point of return. The scholars who studied it vanished from time, not died. Vanished. Their absence recorded only as a theological silence, missing entries, forgotten footprints, the absence of memory in living minds. You press your hand to the page, and it accepts you. Your arm flattens into script. Your breath curls into calligraphy. Your ribs crack into quills. The parchment grows with joy, wrapping around you, rewriting you line by line. You see the child again. He is seated in the center of the room, knees tucked beneath his chin, watching you with eyes that no longer blink. He does not smile. He only gestures to his chest, where his own page still grows. You understand now? The book is not finished because you are the final stanza. The room fades, not into darkness, but into ink. Walls dissolve into margins. The ceiling becomes vellum stretched tight with breath. You are within the book now, not metaphorically, not symbolically, bodily. You are pulp, pressed and sanctified. You are a chapter wrapped in sinew and secret. You cannot move, but you can feel the quill. It writes with your spine. You are aware of each stroke, each curvature of letter etched into your memory. It writes faster now, fevered, joyful, deranged. Your thoughts spill onto the parchment before you can form them. Your dreams, your guilt, your unborn regrets, all laid flat in black. There is no audience, only the reader yet to come, and then stillness. The writing stops. You do not know how much time has passed. Time no longer applies. You are not dead. You are not living. You are kept. You become aware of voices nearby, real perhaps, or remembered. Monks chanting, footsteps in the nave. The slow creak of the chapel door. The book, your body, is lifted from the pedestal by unseen hands. You feel them, curious, fearful, young. The book is brought to the altar. You smell incense and blood. Always blood. Pages are turned. Your nerves flare with each flip. The reader pauses on your final line. The spine splits slightly. You feel it. A mouth opens at the center seam. The voice that speaks is not yours, it is ancient, wooden, like breath through cathedral doors. He has been read, and the room, the monastery, the world, exhales. The child is gone. There is no child. There never was. Only the book. A monk records the event in a hidden registry. His hand shakes. He cannot remember when the boy first arrived, only that he was always reading. And now he is not. The monk seals the book with wax, places it back in the ossuary among teeth and mistranslations. The title has changed. Where once there was no name, now there is yours, written in the same bruised ink that first touched your thumb. Liber Perditus, the child who vanished after reading. No. One will open it again until they do. A century passes. Or a heartbeat. The wax seal cracks beneath the weight of silence. Another child wanders too far. A hand lifts the cover. A name is read aloud, and the ink quivers. The page sighs. There is no beginning, only turning. No reader, only reading. No child, only the book. If your candle hasn't gone out yet, you might be ready for the next book. In the darkest corners of history, there are secrets buried deep, stories forgotten within flames, leaving behind only faint traces etched in the minds of those daring enough to face them. One such story involves a book, one not merely holding forbidden knowledge, but also containing curses that the world has tried to erase. A book, written in ash, birthed from the flames of a monastery that was burned to the ground. This monastery, said to have held the darkest secrets of religion and ancient rituals, now lies in ruins. What lies within those charred pages? Join us as we embark on a journey to uncover the remnants of a monastery destroyed by fire, a place once holding a book believed to be the key to unlocking the mysteries of a forgotten world, where forbidden knowledge, ancient rites, and the powers of the unknown reside. The next chapter of the Forbidden Folio will delve deeper into the cryptic truths of this book, the one thought to be lost forever. Why was it erased from every library, hidden from the eyes of the world and kept from those who sought to uncover its secrets? The monastery, once a center of esoteric knowledge, was home to monks who devoted their lives to studying the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. They sought to understand the forbidden, ancient rituals, dark magic, and connections to the divine that no one dared to speak of. But as their studies progressed, they unearthed knowledge that would come to haunt them. The ancient texts they read, the rituals they performed, and the ceremonies they conducted were not meant for human understanding. They tapped into forces far beyond the realm of mortal comprehension. It was these dangerous discoveries that sealed the monastery's fate. Their exploration of the occult and the divine attracted forces that no one could control. The monastery, once a sacred place of learning, became a target of vengeance from the unknown realms they had dared to disturb. One fateful night, the monastery was set ablaze, consumed by flames so fierce that nothing remained except the ashes of its sacred halls. But even in the fire's aftermath, something remained, something unexpected. Amid the charred ruins, a single book was discovered. It was not an ordinary book. Its pages had been burnt, scorched beyond recognition, leaving behind only fragments of ash and burned parchment. Yet, within this wreckage, there were still traces of writing, symbols and characters, faint but undeniable. This was not a mere book. It was a relic of power, a gateway to knowledge that should never have been unearthed. This book, now known only as the Ash-Written Book, holds the keys to understanding the occult practices and hidden truths that once flourished in the monastery's walls. The very ashes of the book seem to carry a curse, one that no scholar or adventurer can escape. Those who sought to decipher its pages were not met with enlightenment, but with madness, despair, and in some cases, death. The book's origins are as murky as the knowledge it contains, and its very presence is a testament to a world long forgotten, one that was erased by those who feared the power it might awaken. For centuries, the ash-written book has been kept hidden, its existence whispered about in dark corners, but its location has always remained elusive. Powerful organizations, secret societies, and inquisitive minds have all attempted to find it, to claim its knowledge and use it for their own purposes. Yet, it always slips through their fingers, vanishing as mysteriously as it appeared. Some claim the book is cursed, that whoever seeks it is doomed to suffer the same fate as those who perished in the flames. Others believe it is a vessel for ancient knowledge, a knowledge that, if harnessed, could grant immense power. But one thing is certain: the book's allure is undeniable. The temptation to unlock its mysteries is strong, and the dangers that come with it are even greater. Now, after centuries of hiding in the shadows, the story of the ash-written book is coming to light once more. A new generation of scholars, seekers and adventurers is determined to uncover its secrets, to understand the cryptic symbols and words that remain on its fragile pages. But will they be able to resist the pull of the book's curse? Or will they, too, fall victim to its malevolent power? As we continue this journey in The Forbidden Folio, we will dive deeper into the story of the ash-written book. What happened to the monks who once protected it? What secrets lie within the ashes of its pages waiting to be discovered? And what are the consequences of awakening the ancient powers sealed within this cursed text? The pursuit of forbidden knowledge is a perilous path. Those who seek the ash-written book may find more than they bargained for. Some may find answers, but many will find their lives shattered by the darkness it contains. The book is a doorway, but not one that leads to salvation. It is a path that only the brave or the foolish will walk, and those who do may never return the same. In the next chapter of The Forbidden Folio, we will continue to uncover the mysteries of the ash-written book. Join us as we explore the secrets that still linger in the shadows of this ancient text. Will you dare to uncover what lies within its pages, or will you heed the warnings of those who have already paid the price? The journey is just beginning, and the story of the ash-written book is far from over.